All right, so today we are joined by Tom E. Curran of NBC Sports Boston. Tom, thank you so much for your time. I grew up watching you on TV, reading your articles, following your podcast, so it is a true honor having you on today. How are you doing?
I'm great, buddy. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Met you at the BC Pro Day the other day, and very impressive young man. Just walked right over, introduced, hand out, said how you knew me, and asked me to come on. So I'm happy to help you, buddy.
Thank you so much. It is a true honor, as I said, and a pleasure. So thank you for your time. It was great meeting you at the pro day, and I'm happy we were able to figure this out. And just two
Definitely.
days after the pro day, here we are. So I'll dive right in. I know you're busy, so we'll dive right in to the Patriots offseason. They obviously made a lot of moves. Stefon Diggs, Milton Williams, Carlton Davis. What would you say is the biggest move the Patriots made this offseason?
I would say it has to be Milton Williams because that's going to be the most. When you look at the amount of money they threw at him, Joey, when you look at the intensity with which they pursued him, they said we're going to get the best defensive lineman out there. And I think there was trepidation on the team's part that are we going to be able to land guys? They
Mhm.
understood that it's not that appealing a place to come to at this point. Everybody else, whether it's Robert Spillane or Harold Landry, Carlton Davis, all of those guys had some kind of connection to somebody on the coaching staff. Milton Williams was a blank slate, so that was something the Patriots had to, sell him, and they did it. They landed him. So I think that's the biggest signing, and I think that I wonder what they would grade themselves as relative to their expectations of what they did in free agency. We're going to be at the owners' meetings later this week, and that's probably a good question for me to ask them.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I think the main thing that I saw with them is they went after a lot of veterans. So you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
Carlton Davis, Harold Landry, a lot of guys that have proven a lot in the league. Milton Williams, obviously being on an Eagles defensive line, didn't get to shine as much as those guys like Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham. Playing alongside those guys did help him, obviously, and got him some recognition. But like you said, yeah, getting a guy that has really no connection to New England is obviously important for this team to try to go out and get guys that, it's not like Harold Landry and Mike Vrabel have that connection.
Right.
Milton Williams did not have any connection to the Patriots. One guy that doesn't really have a connection necessarily is Stefon Diggs. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously he's coming off an ACL injury, 31 years old. What do you think went into the Patriots thinking there? Do you think they were worried that they didn't get their number one receiver like, DK Metcalf in a trade? And so they kind of said, you know what, we'll go out and get a guy who's obviously a veteran, seasoned player. Stefon Diggs is an established player in this league, is coming off an ACL injury. What do you think their thinking was behind signing him?
Vrabel spoke at the combine and he said, we're going to have option A, we're going to be extremely aggressive, and then we're going to pivot quickly to option B, option C. Diggs might have been option C. I don't think that's a horrible option C. Now, you can look at the cons of it. Um, he's coming off the ACL. You don't know what he's going to be able to contribute in the first quarter of the season. He has been in the past a pain in the ass on the sidelines and in the huddle, but certainly not a bad human being. So you have to conquer those two things and get your mind around them. And then you still have to pay him a significant amount of money. So I think the thinking was, look, we can sit here and talk about all the reasons that rolling the dice on Stefon Diggs doesn't make sense. But then when we're done explaining that to ourselves, we have to turn around and look at our depth chart in our wide receiver room and say, okay, then what are we going to do? We don't want, we're too good for Diggs. Beggars can't be choosers. Any port in a storm. The Patriots desperately need a professional wide receiver who can lead by example. And I think that Diggs is that kind of guy in that room. And also, I think that, excuse me, Joey, the experience that Josh's brother Ben McDaniels would have had with Diggs working with him in Houston can serve as something. And I think that Diggs, when you're 32, you're a long way from that. When you're 32, you can look at things and say, eh, maybe I could do things a little differently this time around. And his relationship with Josh Allen was productive, but the annoyance of Diggs and honestly too, Diggs' circle around him was part of the reason. I mean, they were just tweeting. Diggs wasn't even, never mind the sideline stuff. I think his brother was tweeting about Diggs and the problems with Josh Allen. So all that stuff they had to conquer, but in the end, you're trying to get better. as a football team. And if you Stefon Diggs and his 1,000 yards just by rolling out of bed or sitting there, you got to take him.
Mhm. For sure, especially considering where the Patriots are at. Like you said, this probably was option C. I know a trade for like a DK Metcalf was definitely in the picture at one
All
point.
things being equal, Joey, all things being equal,
Mhm.
health. Would you prefer Stefon Diggs to DK Metcalf or which way? If they're both healthy as horses.
Mhm. I mean, it depends. I think DK obviously in the red zone having his height, I think that would be huge for Drake May having that type of target. I think where they're at in their careers, DK, I probably would say is the better player right now. But Diggs still had a productive season. No, he only played 8 games last year, but he did have productive
But I
eight
mean,
games.
all things being equal, like I'm just no ACL. I'm looking at Diggs and saying, I'll take the technician.
Mhm.
I mean, look, DK Metcalf is a physical freak.
Mhm.
He's just massive, and you can see him, climb the ladder. I remember seeing a picture of him making a catch in practice, shirtless, and the ball must have been 12 and a
Mhm.
half feet in the air. You remember that? It's
Yeah.
like I'm like, my God, that's not a human being. Um, but I look at Diggs and say, would I be saying this on Tuesday? Yes, I've never been a huge DK Metcalf guy. I think
Mhm.
he's very good.
Mhm.
I like Diggs.
Mhm. Yeah, I like Diggs as well. I think getting a veteran too, a guy that's obviously seen a lot in the NFL, will help Drake May. And I think this doesn't prevent the Patriots from going receiver even at number 4. And we'll tie in now to the draft. What would you say now is the ideal pick at number 4? Is it still maybe adding a receiver, offensive line? I know the Patriots have kind of picked and chosen what they were going to do with
Mm-hmm.
free agency, and there still are a couple holes on the team. They did address a lot of those, but there still are some things they can address. What do you think is the ideal number 4 pick for player or position you think they go with there?
That's a great question. And I continue to kind of bang this drum. There is no ideal player at 4. There are significant dice rolls to each of them. Travis Hunter, you want to go and take him? And I'm sure that everyone who's watching this is saying it's a layup. He has not played as a dedicated wide receiver.
Mhm.
So he was not, necessary. He's more of a corner. He's been that, and he's not going to be able to play a ton of corner here. You have starting at one side, Carlton Davis, starting at the other, obviously, is Christian Gonzalez. He's going to have to be a spot corner. And I don't think the guy would need to be, or the team would want to overload him so that you're overwhelming the 4th overall pick when he comes into the league. So
Mhm.
Travis Hunter has immense upside. I don't think he's ideal. Will Campbell has immense upside, but he had taken a left tackle at 4, and there's so much concern about his arms that you have to acknowledge it, even though I think that it's a little bit overwrought.
Mhm.
I mean, we're not talking about the perfect prospect at 4 in this draft. It doesn't exist. There's no Joe Alt.
Mhm.
There's no Brian Thomas or Malik Neighbors.
Mhm.
There's no Drake May. You're going to have to swallow hard. Why not take Tyler Warren? How do you like that? Tight end from Penn State. I mean, if you want to find a guy who is outstanding at his position and take him with no warts on him, well, then go take a tight end.
Mhm.
So it's very hard at 4. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think where the Patriots are at, I think they could go any of those avenues you mentioned. I think a
I
trade
mean,
down.
I should mention Carter too. Like, say Carter slips down too. Yes, edge. I had Billy O the other day on the pod after we saw him, and it was interesting to hear him say that he would go edge much earlier than wide receiver. It was because of JJ Watt and what he did at Houston. Go ahead. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt.
No, no worries. I love your insight and I appreciate it. I'd say I think a trade down is definitely possible if they trade down from, let's say, 4 to 7 or 8. Let's say Sanders ends up falling somehow, some way, and the team jumps up, with the Patriots. Let's say it's the Jets even. They jump up to the Patriots and go out and get Sanders. I think the Patriots would be in a prime position for Tito McMillan. I think he'd be a good player to have, in that offense, especially next to Diggs. If Diggs is now that wide receiver 1, and McMillan can come in essentially be that number 2 and obviously take time to develop. I think that would be huge to the Patriots offense. I think Travis Hunter, if he's there, I think that ends up being the pick. Even though, like you said, I don't think there's any surefire prospects in this year's draft. Like you mentioned, Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels. There's none of those guys in this year's draft. I don't think where it's a full home run swing. I think with the upside of Abdul Carter, I think it could make sense for the Patriots if he's there at 4. You could get a guy that is your franchise cornerstone pass rusher for the next
Yep.
decade. I think that would be very tempting. I'm not really too sure how things will fall right now. The way things look, it looks like Cam Ward probably goes number 1, and then after that, I'm not really too sure how the rest of the draft falls.
They
I don't
can
know, but
they can still luck out Can't they? I mean, say, boom, with all the moves that the Giants have made with Jameis and Russell Wilson,
Hmm.
you can say, okay, well, maybe they're not looking for Shedeur Sanders.
Hmm.
So say it goes, you make an excellent point, is what I'm driving at.
Hmm.
If Shedeur Sanders, if Carter, Hunter, and Cam Ward go with the first three, and the Patriots sitting there and staring at Shedeur Sanders, somebody's going to say, we'll come up for four.
Hmm.
We weren't going to go up to 2 or 3, but if he's still sitting there at 4, we have to think about it.
Hmm.
So you can still move down. You can still get Membu. You can still get Campbell. You can still get McMillan. You can still get Warren. You can still get all the pass rushers. There's a few of them at the top of the draft. You can still get good players. It's just the notion that all drafts aren't created equal. I keep having this argument with people. You don't do that at 4. Well, the number is irrelevant. It's the players who are on the board at 4.
Hmm.
That's what matters. It's like, okay, well, Drake May went 3rd last year, so you have to find somebody who's just a titch less than Drake May. Sorry, it's every draft. It's like a snowflake, Joey.
You're right.
They're all
Everyone's
different.
different. Every draft, the way
You
things
can't
shape
do
out.
it.
You're right.
You agree?
I do. I completely agree with you. I think every draft's different. And this year, there's no surefire quarterbacks. I think that's the main thing that usually,
I
causes
know.
drafts to, number 4, where the Patriots stand right now. Last year, if the Patriots already had Drake May, let's say you reverse roles, they have Drake May, and they're at the 4th pick. This year, essentially, let's say that was the way the draft shook out last year. So 3 quarterbacks in a row. If you're standing at number 4 last year, you're in a really good spot to get the next best player available if you don't need a quarterback. Obviously, this year isn't the case. I think, Ward and Sanders probably still end up going, top 4, but it's not a surefire thing. Last year, I think everybody knew it was going to be quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. So whoever had number 4 was going to get that next best player probably.
Would you take, like, say those guys were in this draft? I definitely wouldn't take either one before JJ McCarthy. I love JJ McCarthy.
Mhm. Yeah.
I probably wouldn't take either guy before Penix.
Mhm. I would
And
agree.
isn't there another? Who's the other quarterback who went last year? We had the top 3: Williams, Daniels,
Penix,
May,
Bo Nix.
Penix, and Bo Nix.
Mhm.
Would Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders be drafted before any of them? I mean, Nix, McCarthy, and Penix maybe
Mhm.
would be the only guys they'd have a shot at, but I still don't think that they would. I mean, one guy won the national championship, the other guy played in the national championship, and Bo Nix was productive as hell. I don't look at Sanders and Cam Ward as the finished products. That they're not the prospects that the top 3 guys were, and they're not the finished products or have the resumes that the other 3 guys have.
Mhm. Very fair. No,
Cool,
that's a
isn't it, to
great
think
point.
about? That's why you're trying to convince these teams to say, yeah, take Shedeur.
Mhm. For sure. I think that's why the Patriots are in a decent spot right now where they are, because if somebody does move up with the Patriots at number 4, you're going to get a good return back. Maybe not as much as you have in years past, but still when you trade it for quarterback, you're going to get a solid return, with whatever team's moving up. And when the Patriots currently stand, I mean, they do have a lot of holes. So if any of those guys fall to 4 or they get them at 7 or 8, they're in a good spot considering what they did this offseason. And the expectations on the Patriots, I think people still probably look at them as, still a team that's obviously not a playoff team just yet. But they did make a lot of moves where I think they could surprise some people and move up in the division. What do you
Mm-hmm.
think would prevent the Patriots right now from making that jump from, let's say, 4 to number 2, with the Jets and the Dolphins obviously maybe taking a step back? What do you think would
That,
prevent them from doing that?
that's a great way of terming the question. I like that. The learning curve, the culture, um, the cultural orientation that is going to go on for these players. Look, Mayo coached them hard on the field physically. Those practices were long ass practices,
Hmm.
but I think that we saw off the field just a slipping of expectations. And Elliott Wolf said we're going to be less of a hard ass franchise
Hmm.
last year at the combine. And they're going to have to get back on their details with a lot of things and a lot of things relative to how we approach the game. So maybe that maturation takes some time. I remember, look, the Patriots suck in a way that they haven't sucked since well before you were born.
Hmm.
I was your age in 91, 92. the last time the Patriots were this bad, they won 7 games combined in 2 seasons.
Mhm.
The Patriots have now won 8 games combined with more games at their disposal in 2 seasons.
Mhm.
So they're that bad. And it took Bill Parcells all of 1993 to get the team better. Now you could say, well, we just watched the 4-13 and another 4-13. They're kind of still at ground zero. They didn't make any progress. Bill kind of drove it down to a point. Mayo didn't really make any progress because it was a mulligan year in so many ways. Patriots said, let's try this and see how it works. It didn't work. You
Mhm.
wasted a year. So now you're back and you're trying again. So they're still at ground zero. So this, I'm not saying they're not going to be a 7 or 8 win team. That's certainly, I think, on the table.
Mhm.
But I do think it's a good way of phrasing the question, Joey. What could prevent them? And I think it would be injuries and the shift culturally and in terms of expectations and scheme.
Yeah, that's a
Kind of
great.
a long ass answer, but
No, I think you looked at it from two different ways, which was great. Obviously, of what it could be, 7, 8 wins, especially with the favorable schedule the Patriots do have in the division. Obviously, being kind of up for grabs. Besides the Bills, the second place is definitely up for grabs. I'd say, considering the Jets and the Dolphins I think, are taking a back seat. I think you looked at it from two different ways very well. Like I said, probably maybe a 7 or 8 win season, but you also look at it of the way expectations are going to be low as is, considering what they've been, especially this past season, with a lot of holes and a lot of things they had to work on. I think Drake May, obviously, if he takes a step up, we've seen teams take a step up, for the first year quarterback coach, their second year, and
yep.
elevate everybody around them. You could see them, taking another leap, maybe 7, 8, 9 wins, like you said. It might be a little bit out of picture, I think, the playoffs, but I still think a 7-win season would show progress. And obviously, with the guys they're bringing in, if you keep that core together for a couple seasons, I think it could build something special with Mike Vrabel. And I know I don't want to hold you too much longer. I just have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
So we'll dive now out of the Patriots currently. Talk about the Patriots of the past really quick. I know you covered Tom Brady for years and decades. What would you say was the most special part of covering Brady, whether it was on the field stuff, off the field, and interviews? What would you say was the most special part?
Honestly, that I would tell people this all the time. He was even more engaging away from the podium than he was at it. And I would sit there and I'd go into our office and people go, Brady didn't give us anything at the press conference. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's insightful. He goes on and on. Yeah, there were days when he sucked, but there is a lot of meat on the bone from what Brady, I think, was saying. And if you want to look back at the transcripts, they have them on patriots.com. He would go chapter and verse on a lot of things, not every single press conference,
Mhm.
but I thought he was an engaging guy and he was even better in the locker room. And it didn't matter if you were from the Lynn Daily item, the Barnstable Patriot, ESPN. He would make eye contact and spend time. Yes, he could be a moving target and scurry into the back room, but he was an extremely decent person to virtually everybody who came through. I say virtually because I'm leaving myself an opening to, in case he was a dink, but
Mhm.
really a decent person. So I think that was one of the most interesting things about him. And I just am forever grateful to cover a team for 20 years that Bill Belichick and Scott Pioli constructed, that Belichick was the greatest game day in-game coach
Mhm.
with absolute nerves of steel, that he had an amazing group of coaches around him that he brought with him, which is incredibly important,
Mhm.
that is underrated. Doesn't matter when in the history of football. You know that I'm looking at a book called America's Game, and it's right next to When Pride Still Mattered. It's across the room from me, and that's a Vince Lombardi book.
Mhm.
Vince Lombardi and Tom Landry were the offensive and defensive coordinators for the Giants in the early 60s.
Mhm.
You know how friggin' important coordinators are? It's everything.
Mhm.
Coordinators are everything because especially now. So those coaches were so good for Bill for so long, and he did such a good job of fostering and finding them. And you know, kind of ran out, I would say 2013 on in terms of draft acumen and decision making, and people's egos took over individuals, whether it be Brady, whether it be Bill, whether it be people saying, you know what, I know what I'm doing by now. I can do this. And they both were of that mind.
Mhm.
So I think that was, I'm babbling here a little bit, but that was a privilege to cover a team that had all that stuff. You asked me about Brady, I ended up on Bill. So sorry.
Oh no, I actually love the way it went because I think you covered obviously two of the most important individuals in football and I think American sports history, especially considering Boston sports. We've had a lot of legends. Tom Brady obviously being maybe one of the biggest, right up there with David Ortiz and other guys. Ted Williams, he's right up there with all of those guys, as a legend in Boston sports history. And you covered him so well. You connected the fan to him by asking questions everyone wanted to hear. After big wins, obviously tough losses, you obviously, always went and got, the questions answered that everybody
I
wanted. And
appreciate that. It was
100%.
really fun. It's like that was a really fun aspect of the job
Mhm.
because you always knew that there was heat on you to ask questions that would elicit a response. And he always, because I had known him for so long, I think he actually was kind of diligent about answering the questions I posed. And it was the same thing with Bill. I'll never forget to veer off here. So during Deflategate, all
Mhm.
week long, remember all the breathless reporting we had? Shit, you were only like 14. Um, we had all the breathless reporting during the week and trying to figure out what was going on. And then on the Saturday before the Super Bowl, before they flew out to Seattle, I don't know why we had access on that Saturday, but we did. And I think it was me and Phil Perry or Giardi were in our little room in the media room, which is like a cell. It was
Mhm.
nice, but it was like 8 by 10, if that. And Mike Reese is in the next one. And all of a sudden, Stacey James, the media relations person, on Saturday, after all the media has gone and is either home or preparing to go to Arizona, there's just a small normal Patriots contingent there. And all the networks had been there. So everyone's gone.
Mhm.
And Stacey goes, Bill's going to come down and talk around 2 o'clock. I wonder, like, no announcement as to what's going on. And we figured it would be Deflategate related. So me and Reese are just sitting there going, hey, we got to ask everything. We have to just make sure that every question that we need to ask gets asked. And so, like, writing down this. And so the press conference starts and he talks with the Mona Lisa Vito speech. If you look again, look at the whole press conference at the end. I'm asking the most inane questions just to cover my ass so that I'm not hearing, why didn't they ask him about? I'm like, so Bill, did you like rub them vigorously? It's like, Tom, it's not fine china. I just remember my kid, who's like kind of close to your age, just tweeted out, my dad just got roasted by Bill. It's like the whole country's watching it because no one was there, and all of a sudden they're like broadcasting live because it was the biggest story, and like there was just such pressure to ask questions, and that's what people don't understand. Like, oh, I ask so stupid questions because we ask the stupid questions so that we don't neglect to kick over a rock that might have something under it that we can use
Mhm.
or you can use as fans or that the player or coach wants to use as a jumping off point. So
Mhm.
that's why we ask stupid questions.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that insight, which I do appreciate all that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's something that a common fan wouldn't even, think about is, as a journalist, you could ask the questions that the fans want, but you also have a story to write as well. So you got to ask questions that,
We have to ask stupid questions.
yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
the answer might be evident,
Hmm.
or you might know that Bill's not going to answer that. But
Hmm.
what if he does?
Hmm. Yeah. And you might get
You
a quote
can't
on
go, yeah. So
it. No, I love that insight. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. Got one last question for you before I let you go. I know you got a lot of things probably busy ahead of you. I saw on
no, I
Instagram.
don't.
I
I
appreciate
don't.
it.
I have a couple quiet days
Hmm.
for now. It's busy. It's been extremely busy. I haven't had like a ton of time off consecutively since
Hmm.
July. It is busy, but just the ways and means of the business. I'm interrupting you just to tell because a lot of people, oh, you're so busy. It's like it's not like driving a forklift, which I did, or spraying lawns, which I did. It's like it's not bad, but when it's busy, there's pressure to it, and it's arduous in terms of, hey, I got to express myself or make a point that people don't already know about.
Hmm.
But I'm sorry, boy, am I babbling today?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
I love the
Uh,
insight. I do.
it's but there's an intensity to, like, I know today, tomorrow, I'll just be making contact with folks. Saturday will be quiet, but then Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are going to be pretty intense because we're at the owners' meeting. So you're there as an extension of the entire fan base. You're there as an extension of all the media.
Hmm.
And fortunately, we have a pretty good media contingent who will ask the questions, and we do a good job of getting it. But you still do feel individual responsibility to elicit from Robert Kraft and Mike Vrabel information that we don't have, or
Hmm.
an insight. So that's important, and also to know as much as you can by the time you leave about where the Patriots are and what they're aspiring to do and how they feel about the way things went. So that 3 days, we're at Palm Beach, we're at the Breakers, one of the nicest hotels in the country, but you're also standing there leaning against a wall with a notebook and a phone, just waiting for this guy or that guy to walk by to say, "Hey, how you doing? Kansas is doing good in the tournament. You got a second?" Just ingratiate yourself somehow and then ask a question. So
Yeah.
it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job. I could not be any luckier and wouldn't trade it for anything ever.
Hmm.
But when it's busy, it's like nerve wracking.
Yeah. I'm sure during the season it's really tough, with timing and games. I know you have to go to a lot of
It's
them
a
up
grind.
and
It's a
cover.
grind during the
Yeah.
season. It's
Mhm.
not, again, not like spraying lawns, which I used to say to Mike Reese all the time back in 1997 when he and I were at the Metro West Daily News, and I had just been spraying lawns for the lawn company down the Cape for like 2 years, which is basically a ChemLawn type company.
Mhm.
And I'd be sitting there like, sucks. Another just took a triple track beat from Franklin. Go with a phone. Yeah, okay, yeah, 50. And I go, that still beats spraying lawns.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you're covering sports. It's a special job because you're not only part of the games and you're going and you're watching. You're part of the fan experience and getting the fan engagement. You're
It
a
is a
big.
very useless profession in some ways. It really is. There's very little value added to society.
I think it's a very important, part of sports. I think for me, and I didn't even say this yet, but I grew up a Giants fan. I still am a Giants fan, but I covered a lot. I on my radio show at BC and now my podcast, I cover everything in Boston. So I'm everything else Boston for the most part. I am a Giants fan, but I
How does that
followed.
happen from South Boston?
So the Patriots weren't around till I think it was 1960. So my
Yeah,
grandfather that grew up
right.
Giants fan, and then my dad stayed with the Giants, and then I did as well right down the line. So that's how that happened. But
So your dad's definitely my age.
yeah, yes, yeah, and he's a big time Giants fan, as you'd expect.
What's wrong with him? He must see he's one of those guys who has absolutely no reservations about walking in and going, oh, it's and taking all this with it.
Yeah, there's a lot when you're a Giants fan in Boston, as
Oh,
you know.
there's a lot.
But I think for me as a Giants fan, even I was telling Mike Giardi this the other day. I grew up, watching you on TV, reading your stuff, and that's as a Giants fan. I would still read all you guys' articles because I love football, I love sports, and you guys always brought a lot of great insight. So I think when you said it was a useless profession, I think it's honestly a very valuable one considering, there are a lot of people that love sports, having something to read, have something to go to, have someone's opinion. Because, a lot of the time you can listen to sports radio, but I think when you're reading it, watching it on TV, it's a little bit different than sports radio.
Yeah.
I've always loved, your work.
Well, it's funny you say that. I overstate in terms of the societal importance because, I grew up reading Sports Illustrated. All I wanted to do was get to either the Globe or Sports Illustrated. And sports and sports writing were an avenue for me to engage with the written word. So I remember reading Charlie Pierce and Gary Smith and Lee Montville and guys like that who I would emulate the way they wrote in Sports Illustrated.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, all the Globe writers too. But, you know, the ability to express yourself, you might pass on to individuals or the engagement in writing, like you're talking about right now, the engagement and communication. So
Mhm.
it's cool. It's cool when you think about it in that vein. So
So,
yeah, maybe not in the immediate is there value added in me telling you whether or not they're going to go after receiver X.
mhm.
But I guess maybe in the overall experience, people could say, I like writing. He's an idiot, but I like his writing.
I've always been a fan, so I've never had a bad thing to say. I've always been a fan of you, Mike Giardi, Phil Perry. Meeting you guys at the pro day, was a true honor. And one last question I have for you. So I saw on your Instagram you play some basketball, you shoot some hoops. You play any leagues, or do you just shoot around and just have some fun, in your free time? Which I know is not
Um,
much in sports, but
I'm more of a shoot around guy now. Um, I golf nonstop. So it's golf from March. I'm probably going to go hit balls today,
Hmm.
um, even in the cold. It's golf from March to really November,
Hmm.
and then I'll shoot. And at the Raynham Athletic Club, I'll just go in and shoot, 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 shoot. I played in the leagues at the Raynham Athletic Club. I played at Lifetime in Westwood. I'm
Hmm.
getting a little old. I don't have a problem. The funny thing is, and it's probably going to happen soon, but my first step is fine. My ability to move around and flexibility is still fine. I
Hmm.
don't look like I'm ancient, but you cannot play defense.
Hmm.
You just can't move laterally anymore. So
Hmm.
I'm probably a better shooter. I could still pass,
Hmm.
can still handle the ball. Although I was playing with this kid a couple of weeks ago from Avon, we're playing one on one. We're at the Random Athletic Club. He's a good player. He was like 27, and he was just a good guy. So I mean, he could shoot. I'm up on him, and he's just drilling stuff, and I'm getting to the hoop on him. And I said, "Can you do me a favor?" I said, "Can you give me some 80% defense because it feels like 60 right now?" He came right up on me, and it was good. I love that stuff. I had a hard time getting around. I got a couple shots off, but they were not shots, that you would be looking to take in a regular game because I had to contort myself so much to get it off because the guy's so quick. So, but I do love to shoot. And I think part of it too is I just never was able to make a friggin' team in high school.
Hmm.
Went to Silver Lake, grew up in Pembroke. We had a massive high school, and I was just a little runt. And I could not make the friggin' team. So I think a lot of it is I never got the fix
Hmm.
of playing to a large extent. Played football, not good. Um, Too small. Basketball, same thing. So I think I still have that fever to play
Hmm.
that never leaves you.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see you can still shoot. You keep your phone ready in case Brad Stevens gives you a call to the Celtics 12th man. You never know. Be the guy in the last guy on the bench. They might need you. You could shoot though. I saw the mid range game, the threes. Like you could still play for sure. You still got.
I love shooting. Do you like playing?
I do, yeah. I love the game of basketball. Played it my entire life growing up, high school, and then played some intramurals and stuff in college just for fun. And then now I play with a lot of my coworkers after work. We'll play at BC. So it's pretty cool. It's fun though. There's nothing better than just picking up a basketball, shooting around on your own. Very easy to do, relaxing, and you don't get
I
much
know.
time as is. So when you get that time, I'm sure you appreciate it. Just being able to, do something that's mindless, shoot around, have some fun.
Well, I'm a weirdo too, because I'm just gonna sit there. I'll watch this guy, the shot doctor, Mike, can't remember his name on Instagram.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Bring it straight up, straight up, straight. I'm 57. My brother looks at me, he goes, Tommy, do you think you're gonna make the league? I'm like, I like doing this. Just leave me alone.
I'm the same boat as you. I know I'm not going to the NBA or anything, but it's fun to play though. It's fun to
Oh, you just
watch the
bust my
game and shoot
balls.
around. I'm
Maybe
in the
you're gonna
same
make
boat.
a pros. Shut up, Mike. I just shoot.
You could still play though.
I
You
love
can
it.
still shoot. You can still shoot. So thank you so much though, Tom. I do really appreciate your time. As I said, this is nothing short of an honor having you on here. And hopefully I'll have you on again in the future. And hopefully big things happen with the Patriots this season. We'll have you back on, as the season approaches. But thank you so much, truly. This is truly an honor. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh, Joey, thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all the kind words. Good luck. Good luck. And appreciate you.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Take care now.